The way that I envision the world and the work that I do is through popular culture, which, is kind of how I interpret that whole pop art term. A lot of what I do is influenced by popular movies, the news. I think if you look at a lot of my earlier work, most of the titles have to do with song titles or song lyrics. And I usually try to work those into the titles. The title is kind of the last piece. It'll give you a window or an insight into the composition that you might not have gotten otherwise. I think at the heart of my work, I have a real sort of punk rock sensibility, a sort of undermining the establishment. And I've suffered the consequences and reaped the rewards of that throughout my career. My work isn't for collectors, it's for Native people. It's for the artists that are coming behind me, or the artists that are working in their studio today, so that, hopefully at one point they don't have to come to a crossroads and say, well, is this work Native American looking enough for me to be in this industry? I usually try to have an element of satire. There's an allegorical element to my compositions where it functions on a bunch of different levels. I believe art has a job to function beyond the composition and document the time that you live in and create some sort of comment on the society that you exist in at the moment. Growing up, a lot of people in the US and in other parts of the world believe that Native Americans were extinct and that the culture was dead and there were no contemporary Native Americans living. So when in conversation, when either myself or my friends or my relatives let people know that they were Native American, they would just like freak out. And it was a concept that I sort of extrapolated on by incorporating cryptozoology. And if you're not familiar with that, it's the study of unknown animals like Bigfoot, like Chupacabra, the Yeti. In my mind, equated to that same reaction of like, what would you do if you saw a Bigfoot? You would lose your mind and want to take a picture of it. The Eyewitness title came about from a series that I started about 3 years ago. It's a reference to the iPhone and how that technology has quickly changed our society. And it's allowed us to communicate information, pictures, products, events instantaneously around the world with a touch of the finger. And when you're sharing information at such a high rate, people's attention spans are shrinking. So if you don't get somebody's attention in like 5 seconds, you're not going to get their attention. So I started thinking about how that's an important thing in our lifetime. The next step for me thinking about that was putting the cell phone into the compositions. And it goes back to sort of why I make art. I comment and describe on life at the beginning of the 21st century, and this is a major thing. And as I worked on the eyewitness theme, I started to come up with these other sub-themes of how we don't really experience reality anymore. We experience it through a filter of a phone. There's a whole nother body of work that I've started called Inappropriate, and it's a play on words. It's IN-appropriate. There was a period about 20, 30 years when popular society was very sensitive to cultural issues. They were very aware of different cultures. They were very respectful of different cultures. And I think that awareness kind of lulled their children to a sense of security where they didn't have to worry about that kind of thing. And now in the digital age, that sensitivity is gone. There's definitely like a lapse in the learning curve. So consequently, when these kids are working on ideas for music videos or ideas for new product lines or ideas for advertisement, whatever pops into their head, they feel that it's okay, that it's their right to use. They might not know anybody from those cultures to ask them if it's okay. The other thing is that's probably more true and sad is that they don't really care. That's why you see Urban Outfitters using Dene designs on their undergarments. That's why you see Victoria's Secret parading ultra thin models down the runway with every bit of turquoise they can put on. and a war bonnet. Once these images are out there, they're out there, and I know because I look for those images, and they're inspiration for my work. One great thing about this show is that I really didn't have to kill myself trying to reinvent the wheel. All of these concepts already existed in my work. I think once they're all together, you'll see that there is a underlying vision or voice through them, no matter what composition or subject matter I'm dealing with. So it's a little different, granted. I mean, you've probably not seen a show like this, especially in the Museum of Indian Arts and Culture. But I think that's what's important about the show also, is that it is different, and it's my hope that it pushes people to maybe spend some time with it, have some conversations. At the end of the day, if I can create a conversation, that's the great thing about art. Santa Fe's never been my ultimate art destination. I was born here. I'm one of the few people that can say that. My eyes have always been on larger ponds, bigger venues. I want to be included in the Guggenheim, the Museum of Modern Art, the Venice Biennale. I think it's time for Native artists to be included in that conversation. I think it's time for our voices to be taken more seriously.